West Side, the home of the Fitzpatricks since 1952. It's now 2005 and we're just going to give you a quick tour of the house. This is a unique house. There's no house like this in the whole of London. This is a house that was built in Victorian times in the Art Nouveau style. This is a house that was a Victorian house and yet it had a lot of Edwardian ideals and design structures. It's a square house. Victorian houses were rectangular, and yet it has the quality and build design of a lot of Victorian houses. Come with us and have a look. We'll start at the top. This is the top of the house. The house is 3 stories high, and if you look out the window you can see that it's above the line of all the other houses in the street. These are typical Victorian houses built from plans that were copied and pretty much the same throughout this area. You can see the flagpole which was attached to the house. This house was built by a very wealthy person as their retirement home. It was the last house they had. The quality of fixtures is just incredible. This glass you can see is original because of the shading and pattern on it. This has all lasted 100 years. Every single stick of this house is original. The house has been repointed twice, and the roof is the original roof that went in to the building when it was first created. You can see these cornices, these corner rails, and if you scan around the room you can see the large dimensions. As I say, the key difference between an Edwardian house and a Victorian house is the squareness of the rooms. And here, for the first time in London or anywhere else, you actually get to see the Edwardian style of room being created in a home. This house was built by a firm of builders, successful firm of builders, who had built many of the houses in the area. And this was the epitome of house design. This was where they were going to live as their family when they had reached the zenith of their career. So this was the best house that could be built at that time by anyone. As I've said, this house is original in every single detail. If you have a look at the push plates on the door, this door handle here with the Mexican hat type design and the keyhole cover, this is all original and it's all top quality brass. This guy, well, this is 100 years old and it's falling off. This guy did not scrimp on any detail, and you can see the screw that keeps the handle in place. And it looks absolutely perfect. It has a good quality screw. Nothing was at half measures. There's a bit of damp coming in here, you can see from the loft. And if you scan round, you'll be able to see that there's a few cracks appearing in the plaster here. But these are hairline cracks, nothing serious. In a house 100 years old, you would expect more damage, but because this was built to such great specifications, it has been preserved so well. If you scan up into the ceiling here, you can see the loft, and the loft is an amazing large space which could have quite easily, or might well be turned into another living space. If we walk through into the bathroom, this would have been a room. Up in the top of the house is the servants' quarters. Your grandmother converted this house into a surgery, and later on when we grew up and went off to boarding school, she turned what was a spare bedroom, or this was in fact the nanny's room, the person who looked after us, this was their room, and your grandmother converted it into a bathroom. But these cupboards are the original cupboards that would have been here when the house was first built. So everything in this house is original. Nothing has been taken away, only things have been added, like the heater here for when this was a bathroom. There's a loo through there in that cupboard door, but again this cupboard was the same. Original to the house, completely in keeping. So basically, this house has not been altered, it's been looked after and cherished as the gem of architectural beauty that it actually is. This is a unique house, and I'll say this again and again, it is absolutely, completely unique. There is no house like this in the world. It's L-shaped. Looking out onto the common, you've got a balcony here, which is part of the design. The servants would not be encouraged to use this balcony for their own private use. We will scan and have a look at the block of houses, the terrace that this is on, and there are only 3 houses in this terrace, only 3, and this is by far the widest It practically takes up twice the width of the other houses on the terrace. Here's an old bookcase which epitomises the design of the house because it's not your fussy Victorian decorated bookcase. There was a bookcase downstairs which had little silver brass discs on it and looked beautiful, but this is the clear, clean lines, and this is what makes this house so special, is that it's the beginning of the minimalist look, the clean lines, straight lines. There is no ornation, there is no ornate decoration. It is very, very simplistic. Simple design of the cupboard. Again, completely original except for some purple painting that someone did in the 70s. Again, the screws are original. The tiling on the floor here shows that there was a fireplace at one time. The room we were just in had a carpet over the tiles, but these were very basic fireplaces, and you'll see as we go down the house, as we go from level to level, the fireplaces become more and more opulent because of the occupants of that particular room. Here's a lovely little piece of furniture here, which we can't take with us unfortunately because we don't have the space. It's a glass cupboard with drawers and a little drawer at the bottom here. So basically you could keep all your clothes in there, and when you were dressing for the evening you could check your appearance to see that you were actually properly tucked in and that your tails were hanging down properly, the backs of your shoes were polished, the front of your shoes were polished, and your tie was straight. If we go through now into this room, this is a room, that was Patrick's room, and this room here was where Anton and I shared our room. Again, water damage has made this a little bit delicate, but again the design is fantastic. So you've got lift up handles made of solid metal, and the metal handle like this. And this is, you're talking about 1905, so this is really one of the first windows in a house that wasn't sash, because as you know, Victorian houses are famed for their sash windows, and this little window here works perfectly well as well, and I can remember always having this open because Anton and I were rather smelly bed companions. You scan around, and unfortunately it's been paint decorated with wood type wallpaper because Anton thought he was a pirate at one stage, and Patrick put up the wallpaper for him. And you can see the fireplace here, very, very simple, almost classical design. You see this sort of design on a lot of Roman features in buildings in Rome. And very, very simple fireplace. Again, the very simple tiling there and the lino floor. Underneath this lino floor is solid floorboards. Right, the red carpet is a key feature of the house. This was taken from a cruise liner. Your grandfather went up to Liverpool docks and a cruise liner was being refitted, and that red carpet was taken out and was put up in throughout the house except for this room here, where the carpet is a sort of mustard colour. It's called a Junior Wilton, and it's a very hard wearing wool carpet and top quality, and it has lasted since the house was built, since we moved in 1952, 50 years after the house was built, and it has lasted with 6 children running up and down the stairs, so it's a very good quality carpet. So if you ever want to buy a carpet, get a Junior Wilton. My mother had a bed which was about twice the size of this, but the headboard is still that original headboard that she had on her bed. I know, a bit faded over time. And what would happen is on a Saturday morning, one of us would wake up and we'd come into the bed, and gradually as the 6 of us got into bed, we would squeeze our poor mother out of the bed and she would have to go downstairs and make us breakfast. We're going to go downstairs now and have a look at how the rooms downstairs differ from the ones here. So have a quick scan around at these clean lines and the fantastic blank canvas that they've created for the servants. They don't need much. This is known as Fiona's room, or the blue room, because it was painted blue. It's famous for the fact that it used to be the nursery, and I managed to push the bars of my cot out one night, and my mother put the cot, turned it round so it faced the wall, so that the exposed bars would not allow me to escape. I pushed the cot away from the wall, slipped under the cot, and famously crawled up through this and through the window and fell down into the garden below. I would say it's easily 10 foot, if not 12 or 15, but I landed on my nappy, crawled round to my mother who was in the surgery. I'd gone for my afternoon nap and banged very angrily on the door to be let in. But it is a blue room, and again it's very good quality wood here. The old lock is the same that was on the house originally back in 1905. And here we have the fireplaces, and the fireplaces again very, very clean and simple, but they start to get some decoration here. So this might well have been the nursery at that time. Not too fussy, and again a small fireplace, not too large, which is a key feature. You can just see the outline of where the tiles are underneath the carpet. There's a little bit of dust come through because it hasn't been swept, but this one has a little bit of a feature here that allows more air to come to the fire. So the specifications on this fireplace are higher than the ones upstairs. The ones upstairs were just small ones. And it's rather like Charles Dickens, you know, you give your servants a couple of lumps of coal and you make sure that your family has 4 or 5. Anyhow, we had central heating put in at a later date, so we didn't have to worry about the fireplace too much. We'll go through to what was my mother and father's room right now, taking in the fact that this was called the blue room because it was blue. Again, have a look at these Mexican hat handles and the brass door fittings. They're getting more and more decorated. They're not the simple ones that are upstairs, and they've even got a little ridge. If I run my finger over, there's a little ridge there, where the ones upstairs were completely flat. These have become more ornate as well, more of a teardrop, more rounded, more three-dimensional. Here we have the start of proper fireplaces. This is your Victorian fireplace. Lots and lots of decoration, lots and lots of detail, lots and lots of features. The marble, the tiling, the design on the woodwork. This is, by the way, a very Art Nouveau sort of design. This is very Victorian classical, flower, all these features. And you've got all the shapes that you could possibly hope for. You've got your arch, square, rectangle, rectangular tiles, and it all comes together to make an amazing piece of furniture. Pink, suggesting that perhaps this was the room that he made for his wife. If you scan round, you can see that it's one of the largest rooms in the house, and it has a bay window. Fiona's room has a flat window, this is a bay. The houses next door are all bay windows, and that's it. So we've got that extra bit on the side, that extra room on the side, that extra width, that extra breadth, the extra space. And let's face it, even in Victorian times, space was at a premium. This is an old radiator. I'm not sure how far it goes back. I would imagine that it's not original to the house, but it maybe went in the 50s. It looks like that sort of thing. I'm not an expert on radiators. If you scan around here, these are the bells that you ring for your servants. You press the button, and the marvellous electrical design that it has summons the servants. And this is an old 1950s switch. It's not connected to electricity. You could unscrew that and twist it off. In fact, a lot of the light fittings in this house were screw-off. And Anton next door screwed off the light fitting by the door, put his fingers in the electricity and was thrown halfway across the room and ended up smashing his head against the wall, on the opposite wall, and having been electrocuted. Have a look at the floor. Again, the floorboards are just absolutely fantastic. This guy built this house and money was no object. He was a wealthy builder. He knew exactly what the best materials were and exactly what would make the best house. And that's what he wanted to do, simple as that. He made his fortune, he built houses around the area, and he wanted to make this house the best house in London. Again, we come into, this is at the back of the house now, so we've got this L shape with the non-bay window, the flat window at the front of the house, we've got the bay window at the front of the house, and then this is behind the bay window room. It's a nice room, it's a good size, and it looks out onto the garden at the back. We had these security frames put in when I went off to Uganda when my mother died. This is the room where your grandmother died, and Anton opened the window to let her spirit out. I'm not sure how much of her presence is here after 7 years, but have a look at the house that she adored and she made good. This is her wallpaper that she put on. The house was once decorated, and that was in 1975, and that was all that was ever done to the house, because she never had any money to spend on it, and any money she did have she spent on us. Look at this. This is absolutely amazing, these carvings. You would have to spend a lot of money to get someone to do shelves like these with these carvings. These are all individually made. There's nothing mass produced about them. You can go into any Victorian house down the street and you will see a mantelpiece that has come off a factory production line. Looks like it's handcrafted like this, but it's put together in pieces and finished by a machine. This would have been made in situ. It wouldn't have been manufactured by anyone but the craftsman who was putting the fireplace in. Again, the draft drawer from here, this draws up more draft to make the fire more efficient. I mean, this is, again, a big fireplace for a bedroom, certainly bigger than upstairs. My favourite feature of the house is the bathroom, which we'll go to again, but I just thought you'd like to have a look in here and see how little clothes the Victorian and Edwardian people would have needed. This would have most probably filled quite easily with all the clothes that belonged to the husband or to one of the relatives of the family. We have a lot more clothes than the Victorians had. And again, you've got this cornicing here that's starting to get much, much more ornate. There's many, many more layers to the cornicing. There's a lot more terracing to it. And even here with this cornicing here. Very important to have that if you're hanging pictures from that. And people will look at your dido rail, they'll look at your where you hang your pictures from, and they'll see, oh my goodness, that's a lot of carving on that. And of course, the more carving, the more expensive it would have been, because the craftsman would have been involved. Your grandmother and grandfather used to be in the room in the front here, and they had a lovely suite which was sold at Christie's. It had a cupboard, 2 mirrors on either side, and a little dressing table which you actually sat in with the mirror, and the bottom of it you could actually put your feet on. Beautiful piece of furniture, but it's also where all the keys were hidden and all the photos are hidden. And one time your grandmother was hiding in this room with the other 5 children. I was the only one who hadn't been scooped up, and your grandfather came back and he was very annoyed, and he wanted to know where the spare key was. And of course I'd seen my mother put the spare key in the drawer, and I think my eye contact at 3.5 might have alerted him to where the spare key was. But generally this was a happy house, and we used to play hide and seek, and this would be a popular place for people to hide during our games of hide and seek as we grew up. A little understair cupboard with no carpet, and this is the cupboard here, which was also a favourite one for sneaking in, especially if you were small enough to get up onto the shelf in there. Good. And this is where my mother would always keep the Christmas presents, in here. So we knew the Christmas presents were in here, but we could never get up to it. So it became a wallpaper holder. But the best feature of this house, I think, is the stained windows. And they are a real feature of the house. And a real feature of the Art Nouveau movement. This is sort of Victorian stained glass was very simplistic, whereas this is very stylistic. and it's the real sort of beginnings of this whole Art Nouveau movement. We used to own the house across the road, so we'll just give you a view through the window of the house across the road, which was not a very happy house at all. And we used to have a chauffeur who would threaten to put us in the cellar if we misbehaved. There's a big cellar down there. We'll have a look at the cellar in this house. And that was your grandfather's house. This house was your grandmother's. So your grandfather bought that house and your grandmother bought this one. So not many people would be proud of their looms, but I think this is absolutely fantastic. I think the seat might be original. I doubt it actually, because it would have been a wooden one, but this certainly is. It was made in Westminster, and it's got the old-fashioned original flush. So I'm going to give it the last Fitzpatrick flush. We live near Clapham Junction station, which is the busiest train station in the world. And on trains they have these stickers saying, please do not flush the loo in a station, because it just goes straight onto the track. So Anton bought this sticker off the train as a little joke, saying please do not use the lamp when a train is in a station. And as they're in there practically all the time, it would be impossible not to use the loo when a train was in the station. Again, the windows here are fantastic, but I'll take you into the bathroom to see the windows here, and they're pretty much the same. Again, you know, one cracked pane in 100 years is not bad. And you can see the roof of the scullery and the larder. This is a fantastic space because you've got these beautiful old tiles, and I don't know whether the people who will buy this house will take the tiles or not, take them off or not, but they are, again, that sort of Art Nouveau feature. And then of course the bath is just enormous. Alexander used to have his bath in here. I had my bath in here. Fiona, Anton and I on a Sunday evening would have our baths together before being allowed to watch television with sandwiches downstairs. And I think it's a really nice space. I always used to love coming up here and having a soak for a couple of hours. Really hot bath, really deep, and my grandmother would always call me up after about half an hour to see whether I drowned or not. But this is the original plug. So the original plug was a piece of metal, and if the water came over the top, it would go through those little holes there. So there was no need to make any holes in the bath, because that was a big cylindrical plug. So you just stick that in, and if the water comes over the top, it goes through those holes and stops the bath from overflowing. But the bath did overflow at one stage, but that's another story. Katrina and Georgina playing. So we go downstairs, have a look at the rooms downstairs, and then that'll be the tour of the house, and that'll be that. If we come down the stairs, we come to the hall, and this is where everyone would get the welcome, and we would take people's coats and we would put them in the cupboard. The cupboard became known as the lift shaft after one of the friends of the family fell down into the cupboard in their coats one day. So we called it the lift shaft. So she fell in to the cupboard and had to be rescued. Luckily she fell on a pile of coats, so she was not too badly damaged. But that was Madge Brown, who used to come here. Again, having a look round at the cornicing, I know that the paintwork is a little bit faded, but it's definitely the type of ornate picture rails and dido rails and cornicing. Again, the fireplace is a very nice one, and I've had that one going. Alexander's seen that one going. Nice clean wood and nice clean tiles. And this is fantastic. I love this sort of, almost looks like fat face, the symbol on the clothes. It's a beautiful design here. Very unusual, not like your normal fireplace. So the hall was the greeting place. The kitchen was where we ate, and we'll go through there in a minute. But we'd greet people here, and we would never have the doorbell working, and we let them in through the double doors. And sometimes we used to make them use the word swordfish as a password. Come through into what we later call the breakfast room, but this was actually where your grandmother worked. My mother worked here. This was her surgery, and next door was the waiting room. Beautiful fireplace again. The green and the brown, these sort of autumnal colours, are very, very key sort of change of emphasis. The Victorians were going into lots of different colours and everything like that, and the Edwardians decided they just wanted a certain amount of keynote colours, and very much to do with nature. So this is your back to nature, flower type colours, beautiful dark wood, beautiful green tiles, and then the metal around is a good quality brass, because you have to be very, very careful about the fire and embers from the brass. And also this here is brass, and it radiates heat rather well. So all this around here would get very, very hot. Fantastically sophisticated. If you scan around, this is where we did all our entertaining, all our birthdays, my 21st, Anton's 18th, Fiona's 21st. All the family would have a celebration here. We go to a restaurant as well, but this would be where we'd have the main celebrations. If you look at the floor, it's decorated with cork tiles, which was done in the 70s. But if you look around the outside, it's actually parquet floor, very good quality parquet, and floorboards in the centre. So there would have been some sort of design of rug or something like that in the middle. But a beautiful, beautiful piece of woodwork, and the floor in the hall is parquet as well. Right. As I say, this house is beautifully produced. Here, you actually got like teeth on this fireplace. This is a real grand Victorian fireplace. Look at the leaves here. These leaves here are carved out. You've got a design pattern there, and they're beads, like beads. You've got the flower, and you've got the Grecian urn there with the flame in it, and the same pattern there, Grecian urn. Very, very Victorian. And these Adams type scrolls here at the bottom with the bows and decoration. And then this beautiful, beautiful red marble colour here. And then this, again, it's a brass fireplace. And this is Burton Weir. So each of the fireplaces is completely different, and each of them has a great design to it. Again, you've got this classical design on here. So this is definitely the entertaining room. This is definitely where they would want to impress people the most. So this would have been the drawing room, definitely. The mirror there is another feature of the fireplaces in the drawing room and in the dining room. Very small here. I think it's beautifully done. I mean, I just, you can just run your fingers along everything, and they've got this classic sort of wave-like design here, which is very Greek. You can see where the gas came in here for the gas lighting, because they wouldn't have had electricity at that time. And so you've got the gas sockets here. This would have been, pipe would have come through here, and there would have been some sort of lantern here. So the light source for this room would have been here. And there might well have been something in the centre, but if you scan up into the ceiling, you can see the decoration. You've got a classical design, that fan type, the circular fan, the shells, and lots of circles. They love their circles and fan shapes. I mean, this is sort of the design that you could go to the Victoria and Albert Museum and see in the Regency rooms. So there's a lot of borrowed designs from different places. Again, have a look at the Dido rail around here. It seems to increase more. It seems to get more and more layers to it, rather like a wedding cake. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers there, and you can see also that the picture rail seems to have got a little bit thicker and has got a few more layers on it as well. We'll go through to the dining room, which was what we call the sitting room, and then we'll have a look at the kitchen, scullery and larder, and that's the house for you to have a look at whenever you want. This is what was the dining room, and you'll see the servants' bells in the kitchen, and it's termed as a dining room. Beautiful, beautiful dining room mantelpiece. You've got that curve, you've got the straight, you've got the columns. These columns look like they should have come from some Corinthian building. These should be outside the British Museum. This one too, absolutely fantastic. This is Mummy, by the way. This is my mother. Say hello. Hello. She says hello to everyone. I'm going to put her up there, because she used to love this. This was her favourite piece of furniture. Again, the design here is just amazing. And top quality wood. The green and the brown, they work so well together. And clearly this man had decided that these were his favourite colours. You can see the hook where you would hang your implements for stoking the fire, brushes and that sort of thing. And this was really, really high tech, this one, because this one had a little handle here, and you would be able to get the flap going at the bottom here, and it had your removable tray, which is really high tech for those days. You know, normally it was just went down there, and it's got a proper grate, so that goes down into there, and then you lift it out. Now this this was revolutionary, you know, because you were just expected to have the grate down below, take out all the ashes. So this is high tech stuff. Here, if we look, just move that, sorry, rather noisy, you can see the gas pipe here for the gas for the lighting. Heating was fire and lighting was gas. Pretty dangerous combination, I would have thought, that gas and fire, open fires, but they were coal fires, so they didn't give off that much flame, but still a dangerous situation. Have a look round at the cornicing, the ceilings. This is a rectangular room. This is what makes this house extraordinary, this is a Victorian room. This one is Victorian. The drawing room is Victorian, and then the rooms next door, the square ones, are Edwardian. It's a mixture of everything. Again, the specifications are amazing. If you turn round to your right, you will see the door, and this door is just absolutely incredible. It's a beautiful dark wood. This is actually pine underneath. It's a very good quality, thick pine. You've got the brass plate here, again, beautifully levelled, so it's actually got a nice feel to it, beautifully smooth. You've got the keyhole here, you've got the handle, which is absolutely fantastic. A nice square design, okay, beautiful rectangular panels here, and then come on and have a look at this. I mean, this is absolutely incredible. He's gone along to the British V&A museum, or he's seen something in a book, or he's seen a building, and he's got his little cherub here, and maybe he looked after us while we were here. Again, the design of the fruit vines, and the leaves here, and all the old Greek swirls and curls and stuff like that. This is real Regency stuff. So you've got Regency, Victorian and Edwardian. And if we go through this doorway, we can come and see the other stained glass windows that are in the hall. And it gives you another perspective on the house. So there you go. Again, very strange design. A lot of Victorian people wouldn't have liked that, because it doesn't even look like a flower. It looks more like a triffid or something like that. The people walking by on the street, when this house was built, when it's probably tut-tutting, saying, gosh, these modern houses look absolutely awful. There's no style in them whatsoever. Now this banister rail here is just absolutely fantastic. I can remember going along it as I was growing up, and these banister rails they seemed enormous. When I was growing up, they seemed enormous. I remember sort of being almost at eye level and sort of trying to climb up the stairs and look through the banisters at the same time. And then one time I came back from boarding school, I bounded up the stairs and I thought, this staircase is tiny. It had shrunk. Not shrunk, I'd grown. This is the bowels of the house. You can hear Katharina and Fiona talking upstairs, so this would be a good place to spy. You can see the rafters of this roof, very, very solid. And you've got crisscross frames here, which you can come and have a look at if you want to. You can hear the movement up above. But this was where the coal came in, and you can see where the pile of coal was, and each and every one of us, all 6 of us, used to have to come down and bring back some sort of coal. So even if we were given a small spade and a dustpan with maybe 4 or 5 lumps that we could collect when we were about 4 or 5 years old, we would come down, shovel the coal into the dustpan and take it upstairs, because that would contribute to the Aga. Of course the Aga is now gas, it was coal in those days. You can see the water system here. So this is really the bowels of the house, and this is really where a lot of the work would have been done. And there's an old stove here. You can see this is the old boiler for the house, so that would have kept the radiator system going. And there is a radiator system going. There is one in the sitting room which we didn't actually have a look at, which is behind a beautiful frame with lattice on it, with cane lattice. So you've got all the pipe work for all the different things, and of course having a bathroom in 1905 you would need a boiler to keep your hot water going. So this is basically where all systems were sorted, and here's where the gas and electricity are even today. So the house has remained very much the same in the fact that all the services are located in one area. And maybe this might be turned into a den by the people who buy the house. But we certainly used to be very scared about coming down here when we were younger. I think you can still see bits of coal from where they used to be fed into the boiler. And there's a hot plate there, so you could most probably make yourself a cup of tea or coffee while you were waiting for the boiler to come up to heat. Katharina and Fiona are upstairs, so we're just going to go through them. They're very kindly being quite about that. There's a beautiful weighing scales down here actually, but this is where your grandmother would keep all her medicines, and I don't know where they've all gone, but there were lots of medicine bottles, because in those days she used to make up her own medicines. So anyhow, that was that. So she'd store all her chemicals here. So we'll go on up into the kitchen, and this was the heart of the house, and this is where we ate, wasn't it, Katrina?
Yes, indeed.
All the time. We used to eat all the time here.
All the time, non-stop.
And
The no
that's
stove,
our
but
favourite place because it was warm.
there was always a light burning at 88.
And it was always a warm place. And this was the airing cupboard in here, and we used to have slats there, and that's where all our clothes were kept. That's where all our clothes were kept to keep them warm when it was a cold day. But it was a cold house before the central heating was put in. So this would be the place that we'd be, and this is a replacement Aga that went into the 70s, and it's still going strong, and there we have it. So the cupboard here, and I think there's a water tank up here. Let's have a look. But this key is original, and it's got stuck there, hasn't it? There we are. Oh look! No, it's just various parts. But there we are. And now this is the most famous thing of the house, is Georgina's boring Sunday afternoon painting. And Anton went to Australia, and he went to see someone, and they were talking about palmistry and that sort of thing. And she said, "I can see this bearded man with ginger hair looking after your family." And all he could think about was this man who was painted with the ginger beard by Georgina. So Georgina did that when she was about 12 or 13. So she's very precocious in her painting. And if we walk through from the kitchen, there used to be a big table here where we used to have our meals. Alexander would have his breakfast in the winter time. We'd all have a jolly good time. Again, one of the most wonderful features I think of this house is the tiling. I mean, tiles are expensive even now, and this guy tiled the whole of his scullery. The scullery is unchanged. Your grandfather and grandmother were extremely wealthy, and they had all the mod cons. They had a dishwasher, they had a washing machine, they had everything you could need. That all went after the divorce, and this sink was all that was left, and it's still there, and I just hope that the people who take over the house will replace the sink. But it's a classic old 1950s type sink with a little pull-out drawer here for the rubbish, and it's called a Dainty World. Dainty Maid kitchen. I've just made it break down, but Dainty Maid. So this was your first fitted kitchen, you know, it's equivalent to the 3,000 kitchens they have now. So white tiles, and this scullery was where all the food preparation was done, and all the fridges would be kept there. But this is really where everything was kept cold. And if you could scan on the shelves of the larder, you can see that it's a good old-fashioned larder, and the old tiling on the floor, and that is slate. That is a slate shelf there. This is solid slate, and this is very, very cold to touch, so it would keep everything cold. We've got the old Sainsbury's bag, which we're taking out of the way, because I want to show you that these are beautifully done. Even these are absolutely fantastic. They've got a design on them. They're good quality, and this guy wanted to make sure that his food was kept well, but his food was kept in tip-top condition, and so even the brackets on the shelf were good quality and even had a design. So he wanted the best even for his food store. Have a look at the window there. There's a window that you can open, and it has netting on it to stop flies from getting in through the summer, and you can put it there we are. Whoops. We finally come out of the house to the lean-to, and you can see that we're at the side door. When we were growing up, it's true, this side door was never locked, and friends would just come in constantly through this door, day and night. The bolt was there, but it was never ever put on unless we went away on holiday, and we never went away on holiday, so the bolt was never put on. This is the back window of the scullery, you can see, and this netting is the original netting. And the Victorians were very clever at keeping things cool and keeping insects away and keeping things dry. This is a lean-to, which we had for keeping our bicycles in and that sort of thing. And I particularly like the colour of the brick of this house. This is not a red brick house. All the other houses along the street are red brick or have red brick facing. This is a beautiful, beautiful warm beige colour. Lots of different colours, different hues, and then a little bit of red brick for the frame. You obviously couldn't get a different colour brick for the frame that went over the door, the porch frame. So there we are. That needs repointing. We've got an outside loo, which is absolutely fantastic, because it meant that if you were outside in the summer, you didn't have to go upstairs. So there we have it. Okay. It's a Victorian handle. I might take this with me actually, as a momentum. There you go. But good solid wood. And even the outside loo had a nice wooden handle with decoration on it and that sort of thing. So good solid, something to get your hand on, get a grip on. Okay, we'll stop there. And we're going to scan and have a look at the house. The back was repointed, so the repointing is done in the sort of modern way, which is for the plaster to be outside the brick, so that it looks like it's been done. It's not the way that it would have been done in the old days. Here we have two fern holders. These are flower holders, and they came from Fernbank, which was your great-grandfather's house. What am I talking about? My grandfather's house, and that was a big Victorian house in Ewell. And it was nice, but it just didn't have the character that this house has. This house was built by a builder who knew how to build, and he put a lot of effort and love into the house, and he succeeded very well. These buildings here that we're standing in now, this part of the house is a sort of addition. This would have been garden, but as the motor car came along came a garage, and a carport was built. I can't ever remember the garage being used for cars to be parked in. I'm sure it must have been when my parents first came here, but they generally left the cars outside. We did have a large Jaguar Mark IV, which belonged to my father, that he left behind because it broke down, and we would play James Bond in it. It had a sunroof on it made of canvas, and we used to climb in and out, and really, it was amazing. We were sitting in this beautiful Jaguar with walnut tables, and we were kids, you know, just jumping all over the leather seats, and most people aren't allowed to jump on leather seats, so we were very privileged in that fact to be using a jag as our playroom. We'll walk on through to the back of the house, and these I'm going to miss a lot because these are fantastic. These I think came from Fernbank as well, and they're a pair of seats with lions' heads, and they've been out here since we've had the house, so they've been out here 50 years and they're still not looking too bad. The French windows here lead on into the drawing room, into the what we used as a drawing room, the sitting room, and is the dining room. So you've got a pretty good idea. The room where your grandmother died is up there on the second floor, and then in the third floor is the room that she used to sleep in when we were growing up. So that's 88 West Side, inside and out. We spend a lot of time out of the house in the summertime. This is an absolutely perfect place, the garden here, for sitting in. It's shaded now, but later on in the afternoon the sun comes over the top of the building and sits at the back of the building there, over that pipe. But the most wonderful thing about this was that we had a circular table here. We'd sometimes string a hammock from here to the other side, past the window, and have that hammock swinging. But generally we'd have a table here, and the most wonderful thing was that you had the kitchen and the scullery here. So the scullery and the larder were there, and the kitchen, so even if you were cooking something, you could pass it all through the window. These bars weren't here, just open up the window and just pass it through. And it would be dark, and we'd all be sitting out in the garden, chatting away under the shade of the trees, and it was just an idyllic way to spend the summer when it was warm, and also being a shelter space. If it was windy, it was fine. So that's 88 West Side. We've been and seen it, we've lived it, and now we have to say goodbye. So that's the end of the video.